So let's keep going. So determine your first steps. You're going to determine whether the graph should be going upwards or downwards. Step 2, find the graph find and graph the axis of symmetry. Find and graph the vertex. Find and graph the y-intercept. Reflect the y-intercept over the axis of symmetry. And then your final point is connect the points with a smooth curve forming a parabola. So it sounds like a lot of work, and they are, honestly. These are definitely not quick problems. But if you take it step by step, they become a little simpler. And so let's go through this, graphing by identifying characteristics. So you need to make sure you kind of memorize this axis of symmetry formula. The faster you learn it and memorize it, the easier your life will become, I promise. And so if you remember our pieces, our A is first. So in this scenario, our A is going to be -1. Our B is second, which is going to be 2. And then our C is third, which is going to be -4 in this case. And so when we're looking at the axis of symmetry, we're just going to replace the pieces that we already have. So B will become 2. And then you're going to multiply 2 with -1. And you're going to end up with something like this. Okay. Again, we also know that it's going to be going downwards because our A is, in fact, a negative number. If your A is positive, you're going to be going upward. If you didn't remember that. So our axis of symmetry is going to be crossing at x is equals to -1, or not -1, sorry, +1. Our vertex, in order to find our vertex, we're just going to find that y by replacing x with what we just found it to be and solving for that missing y. If you don't remember, that f of x is actually just simply our y. And so you can go ahead and plug in x for what you found and solve for y. And so our vertex, where our maximum is going to be, it's going to be at 1, -3. And then you can also find your y-intercept pretty quickly because your c is your y-intercept, so it's just going to be -4. And then we can go ahead and graph it. So all we do is we plug in those the pieces that we know, draw in that y or that axis of symmetry. You can also put your vertex, right? We found that as well. And then you can go ahead and put your minimum and your y-intercept, and then mirror it across because we know it's a parabola, so it's going to be even on both sides, literally cutting it right in half, so it's symmetric, and you're going to get your parabola. So let's kind of go through this. You can go through the steps given the graph below, identify the following characteristics. Axis of symmetry is going to be x equals to -2. Vertex is going to be -2, -1. And then your y-intercept is 0, 3. And so we can kind of go through these steps, right, and do the exact same thing. Choose your x's. In this scenario, I chose 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. Plug them into your equation. And you can also use this process as well. It's not as accurate, especially if you're looking at a larger problem, but this is also an option. But if you want something that's a little bit more accurate, you can definitely use the steps that I taught you above. So axis of symmetry in this scenario is going to be x is equal to +2. Your vertex is 2, 3, and then your y-intercept is 0, 1, -1. Hey, Joel, that is all I have for you. You can go ahead and start your activity and practice looking at these situations. If you have any questions, let me know. We're going to continue working on these as, like I said, parabolas and these quadratic functions, they're a lot of work and there are a lot of steps to them. So I want you to first just kind of think about how to graph them, think about your equation to find the axis of symmetry, kind of try to memorize that as best as possible so you don't have to, forget that in any scenario. And then we're going to move on to different things in the future. So let me know if you have any questions. Adios.